everybody, and welcome to another board game review and gameplay demo. Today I'm going to be doing a classic Euro game that comes to us from Rio Grande Games. This is a classic example of how you can really include not only economics within a game, but also have some really great mechanics surrounding the entire thing that just makes it great overall, and not only that, but scales wonderfully for multiple numbers of players. It is Power Grid. This is a great game. It has a ton of expansions, which I'm not too big of a fan of, but the base game itself is absolutely amazing. It plays from 2 to 6 people. It doesn't take, it takes somewhat long, but it is a Euro game. It is a classic example of a Euro game. The whole point of this is that you are trying to light houses and allow people to be able to see in the dark. And that's the general idea. You get to buy power plants, you get to power them up, you get to build houses, all of that kind of thing. This has some very classic mechanics that you see in Euro games all the time, and even in Ameritrash games as well. But you have things ranging from manipulating starting points, you've got a great auction system, you have a wonderful economic system, all sorts of stuff. And my personal favorite, you have the infamous Euro chant of, "Oh, were you going to do that? I'm so sorry. Oh, I guess you can't now." You have that great passive-aggressive backstabbing, which is really fun in board games, but terrible in real life, I might add. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into what this game is similar to. So realistically, what Power Grid is similar to is Power Grid. I mean, the thing is that Power Grid was, to my knowledge at least, it was the first game that I played for it, but it was one of the first games that really integrated so many of these mechanics into something so seamlessly well. The only thing that this is really similar to is, unfortunately, Power Grid First Sparks. The biggest difference is that with First Sparks, you actually have like a map exploration system, as instead of having just a set map. You have little tiles that you get to set up for First Sparks. They are very similar in terms of, you've got the auction mechanic, you still have economics, you have to keep track of resource management, all of that kind of stuff. And the thing is, there are other games that do those specific aspects relatively well. But with Power Grid having so many of them, it's a little bit difficult, it's a bit difficult to pick something that it is most similar to. But there are good auction games. So one of my favorite auction games is Modern Art. I don't know if any of you have played that, but it's pretty fun. You can talk about how this is relatively area control. You can talk about how this is economy manipulation based. So you could even say something like Twilight Imperium. I mean, it's ridiculous. There are a lot of games that this is similar to in terms of numerous mechanics, but as far as a global similarity, the only real one is Power Grid First Sparks. But either way, I know that you're not interested in that too much. We're just going to go out right on ahead and jump straight into the gameplay demo. Alright everybody, we are here, we are set up and ready to play some Power Grid. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this game, the general idea behind it is that each player is playing as an electric company. And the principle is that you want to build houses, and more importantly, you want to power those houses. And the way that you do this is by purchasing power plants from over here. You've got, everybody has a collection of houses that they're going to be building throughout the game, and you have to purchase resources in order to power your power plants and therefore provide electricity to your people, to the houses that you build. So as I said, right now it's pretty much set up. I'm going to go over each individual section though. First and foremost, we are set up for 4 players. We've got red, purple, green, and yellow all set up and ready to go. And there's 2 things up at the top of the board that I want to point out first. Over here on the left side is the starting player or the player order markers. So these are just some of the house tokens that are there to replace essentially just player markers. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the reason that those are there in that particular order is at the beginning you draw lots. However you want to decide who goes first, that's how you decide who goes first. So that's how that's set up. And then over here on the other side is how we keep track of how many homes have been built. So right now everybody is over here technically to the left of the one where there's this little housing symbol, and that just means that you have not built any houses on the map. Okay, so looking at the map itself, you can see this is actually the United States map. Right here. On the other side of this board is actually Germany, if you prefer. As I mentioned, I only have the base set. I don't have any of the expansions. But you can see that there are distinctly colored regions. We've got the brownish in the northeast. We've got this yellow that goes through some of the Great Plains here. Down in the southeast here, we've got green, and then in the south slash middle east Midwest, we've got red. Up here in the northwest, we've got purple, and in the southwest, we've got this nice teal color. So the idea is that for however many players you have, ideally you want to play with that many regions. So since we've got 4 players, I'm actually going to pick the easiest 4, which are the brown, the yellow, the red, and the green. The reason that they're easiest is simply because it's less expensive to build through them. Last but not least on the board is this section down here, which is the resource section. I won't zoom in too much so that you can see the whole thing. Basically, the way that this game works is as you're purchasing power plants, they run off of several different sources of energy, several different sources of electricity. So here at the top we've got coal, which are these little cubes here. Oops, sorry about that. These little brown cubes. We've got oil, which are these black cylinders here. No. See, I can never see where I am, unfortunately, since I'm zoomed in. So there's that black cylinder. And then we've got garbage. That's right, we've got the recycling plants effectively, and that's a yellow cylinder. And last but certainly not least, we have uranium, which is a red cylinder here. Okay? So this is, as I said, this is the starting setup for the resources. The coal is completely filled, the oil is almost completely filled, and then the garbage is barely filled, and the uranium only has 2 pieces on it. We'll scoot that back over. And essentially, I don't know how well you can see it, but I'll move this these coals out of the way and then zoom back in on that section. So the way that these work is those numbers indicate how much each thing costs. So you can see there's the 1 and the 2, and then it goes up and up and up and up until at the very, very end we've got 14 and 16 respectively for those 2 uraniums at the very end there. And that's just how much everything costs. So with that, for each individual player, each person gets several things. You get a big pile of houses that we're going to be building throughout. And again, 2 of them go up for counting the number of houses and also for the player order markers. Everybody also gets one of these turn order cards, which I'm going to be referring to throughout this little video here. And last but not least, everybody gets 50 electro, which is the money. Now you may have noticed that I'm actually using stacks of poker chips here. I vastly prefer poker chips to any other form of money for this game. It's so much easier to count out, it's so much easier to handle, it's a lot more durable, it's just better in every single way. So this right here, this is the money that comes with the game. It's flimsy, it's flappy, it crumbles easily. I mean, it's just, it's a mess. It's not good for board game money because it's constantly changing hands, it's constantly moving around. It's not good. I do not like it. I highly recommend using poker chips instead, simply because they're just much better overall. All right. So lastly, we've got all of the power plants over here. So this is the stack of power plants, and you can see they're all numbered in the top left corner. In this case, we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. These are the starting power plants. This is a standard setup for the game. This is the beginning setup, and essentially these are the minimum costs for each one. That is the minimum amount that you have to pay in order to get that particular power plant. But the idea is that it goes through an auction. So you might say, I want the number 3, and then somebody else says, well, I'll pay 4, I'll pay 5, 6, 10, you know, however it goes. And whoever wins gets it for that price. Starting off, you can only actually get this top row here. The bottom row is essentially what's going to be coming up. It's called the future market, and then this top row is called the current market because that's what you can get right now. And you can see these different symbols on them. First off, we've got these little drums. That's oil. You have to buy oil in order to run that plant. And then this is coal. This one right here, where it has the oil and the coal together, that's what's called a hybrid plant. And you can use either coal or oil or a combination of both. In other words, you could use 2 oil, 2 coal, or 1 oil and 1 coal, and it would power that particular plant. Lastly, you can see this house with the little number on it. That is the number of homes that particular plant is able to power on its own. So these 3 here on the bottom row are capable of powering 2 homes each, and everything else only powers 1. There are much, much bigger, much more efficient power plants in the deck that you're going to be getting throughout the game. But this is what you're starting off with, and in the first round, everybody has to buy a power plant, but you do not have to buy one after that. But everybody needs to at the very beginning. The last thing that we've got to do to finish our little setup is to finish setting up our actual power plant deck, which is the deck right next to my my red houses right here. So this is the power plant deck, and you can see there's an example of a uranium one that powers for 2. There's a 39, 1 uranium for 6. Absolutely huge, ridiculous. There are 2 coal for 6. I mean, they get huge, they get expensive. There's Mr. Fusion right there. So this is what is colloquially known in my gaming group as hippie power, because it costs nothing and it automatically powers something. This is just, you know, you've got a lot of things like wind power, hydroelectric. Wind is the most common one with that. But either way, this deck is almost finished. We actually just have to do a couple of other things. There are 2 very special cards that we still need to put in. We have this, which is called the Step 3 card, which I'll get to in a little bit. I'll get to what that means in a little bit. And then we have this. It's the first hippie power card, and it's rank number 13. So basically, the Step 3 card goes on the bottom of the deck, and then the number 13 goes on the top of the deck. So we know when those are going to be coming. So here's the deck. We put our Step 3 on the bottom, and then on the top, we put our number 13. Okay, so when we first draw a card, we know what's going to be coming up immediately. So now we are officially done and ready to play. The way that the rounds work is very simple. First, we do determine the player order, which is based off of the number of houses. Whoever has the most houses is going to be in the first rank. Next up is buying power plants, which is in the player order. So in other words, right now, red is in the first rank. Red is in the first place, so to speak. You can see right there on the far left. So that means red is going to bid on a power plant first. Right? That's what that is. And then after that, oops, sorry about that. After that is buy raw materials, which is purchasing all of the different things that you need to run your power plants. And then it's building. You build up however many houses that you wish, however many you can afford, however many you're comfortable with. And then it's bureaucracy, which is where you quote unquote light them up. And that's where you spend your resources to power up your houses and earn your money. And then you also refill and redistribute the power plants as required depending on what stage of the game that you're in. And you also redo the raw materials. So to get money, you just look on the back of the card and it says for however many number of houses you have, you get that much money. If you have no houses, you automatically get 10 electro. Just having and powering a single house gets you 22, so on and so forth. And you can see as you have more and more homes, then it actually becomes less and less beneficial to you to power up so many of them. The way that you win at this is that whoever has and is able to power the most homes after somebody has completed a total of 17 is the winner. So that's our stopping point is 17 homes. All right. I'll get into each phase now. I'll go ahead and play through once a little bit more slowly so that I can show you guys what's going on. And then I'll move through a couple more rounds a little bit faster so you can see sort of how the play progresses a little bit more. But the last note is just on the back of the instructions here. This is how you refill everything. So you can see depending on the number of players you've got and also depending on which stage of the game you're in. Okay, so there's the 3, 2, 1 for the coal, oil, garbage, and uranium with 2 players. Right now we're at 4 players. So every round we're going to be refilling 5 coal, 3 oil, 2 garbage, and 1 uranium. Okay? That's going to happen every single round. So in other words, what's going to happen is that the uranium and the garbage are going to get a lot cheaper relatively quickly because there's very few of those types of power plants. So it's going to get very cheap relatively quickly. And other than that, that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and get started, talk a little bit about some of the nuances as I go through. So the first and foremost is bidding. Well, we're going to start off. I am the first player, red is the first player, and I want to go for the number 4 plant. Why not the number 3? Well, basically because coal is a lot cheaper than oil is right now, so I'd rather pay a little bit less in the cost of resources and maybe potentially pay a little bit more for the coal plant there. So I say 4, purple says I'll pay 6, green says I'll pay 7, yellow passes. If you pass, that means that you can't go back into that particular auction. Red says, I'll go, I don't know, I'll go 8, I guess. No, yes, I'll go 8. And then purple says pass, green says pass. So we count out 8 here. There's 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 goes to the bank, just like that. And now red has a power plant. So the way that this refills is everything just shifts as appropriate for the numbers. So we've got 5 and 6 scoot over, 7 comes up to the current market, these guys scoot down, and then we flip up our new 13, our hippie power. And now we go around, it's time for purple's turn. Okay, well, purple is debating. Purple is going to go for the 5 because it's nice to have the versatility of a hybrid. So 5 and then 6, 7, 8, pass, 9, pass. So yellow gets it for 9. There's 10 and 1 back. Oops, that's not the bank. So yellow gets the 5. Yoink and yoink. And look at that, a 15. Well, that's awesome. That's probably gonna, that's actually probably gonna stay, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so there's that. That's done now. So it's still purple's turn because purple picked the number 5 plant but didn't get it. So until purple buys a power plant, it's still gonna be their turn. So they're actually, they're gonna take a little bit of a risk. They're gonna try to go for the 8 here. So they're gonna say 8. Green says 9. Purple says 10, and green says, pass. So green passed, and purple gets it for 10. I believe that's what I said. It doesn't make that much of a difference. And now 9, and then this flips. Look at that, it's Mr. Fusion, it's the 50. Whoa, that's crazy. That's gonna go away though. All right, so now it's green's turn. Now, everybody else has bought a power plant, so nobody else is actually in this auction, so green just says, well, I want that number 9, because it's only a single oil and it powers a house. That is a pretty good deal there. So there is 10 to the bank and 1 change. And I'm just gonna grab some more ones here from my giant thing of poker chips. All right, so that is the, here, we'll scoop these. All right, now what's going to happen here is we're going to have to rearrange this. So you see we drew a 34 from the deck. And now the problem is that we have to put these in the order of the numbers. Since 34 is lower than 50, the 50 still stays here, and the 34 just goes in between. Okay? So that's the end of the buying power plants. A couple of things to note. You can have up to 3 power plants at any given time, but if you buy a 4th one, you have to get rid of one that you already have. And the other thing is, like I said on the first round, everybody has to buy a power plant. Everybody must do it. And now, raw materials in reverse player order. So in other words, if you're going last, technically, then that means that you get the cheaper stuff. So it's yellow's turn, since yellow is at the bottom. They have a hybrid plant. So they're going to go ahead and buy up all of the coal that they can. The way that this works is however much your plant requires, you're allowed to store up to double that amount. So in this case, I could have up to 4 coal. So yellow is going to buy 4 coal. Now what happened here is we went ahead and we cleared off the number 1 there, this first rank, and then we got 1 from the number 2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electro total to get those resources for yellow. So they're done. So that's 5. And now they've got their resources on their power plant just like that, right? And we just keep moving on. So next is green. Green has a plant that it can only take 1 oil, so that means that they can buy up to 2. but since oil is a little bit pricey, they're going to go ahead and just buy 1. And the other thing too is everybody else is really into coal. So they're like, it's going to be okay. Oil's going to get pretty cheap. I'm not too worried about it. Not really worried about what yellow is doing there. Okay, and then next up is purple. Purple needs 3 coal just to power theirs once. So that would be 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 total just to power their stuff once. That is a lot. Alright, and last but certainly not least is red. Me! Well, they're all me, but still. I need 2 coal for a single power plant. So I'll just go ahead and pay the minimum because it's 6. Coal has gotten very pricey very, very quickly. So I'll just take the 2 there. Right? And that's it. So that's it for buying raw materials. Now we go to building in reverse player order. The building is where it can get a little bit hairy. If you remember, I mentioned that I am working with these 4 regions here, the yellow, the brown, the green, and the red. Now, I don't know how well you can see it. Here we'll zoom in on Jacksonville there and Savannah. Let me just adjust my camera here, if it'll cooperate. There, perfect. Okay. So you see here how this says 10, 15, and 20. These are the different stages of the game. We are in stage 1, where you can only purchase at the 10 level. At stage 2, which is after somebody has built 7 total homes, you can build in stage 2, the 15. And then stage 3, which is the card that's at the bottom of this thing, or step 3 rather, which is this card at the bottom of the deck. After that's drawn, then you can start building on the 20. That just indicates how much it costs just to have a building there. Since none of us have buildings, effectively what's going to happen is we're just going to plop down a building in any place that we want to in any of the regions that are active. So Savannah is actually a really good choice. Now the way that building works, you pay the 10 and you get your first one. After that, you have to pay whatever these connection prices are in addition to either the 10, the 15, or the 20 that you're going to. So for example, between Savannah and Jacksonville, there is no connection cost. So that would just be another 10. Whereas between Savannah and Raleigh, North Carolina, there's 7. So in order to build on the 10 in Raleigh from Savannah, you would have to pay the 7 plus the 10, so a total of 17. Right? I hope that's relatively clear at least. Alright, so we'll zoom back out here. And remember, this is in reverse player order as well. So we're going to start off with yellow, and they're going to go ahead and do exactly what I said. They're going to build in Savannah first. They're going to pay their 25. So they get 15 back because it costs 10. Now, you can build as many buildings as you can afford. But it's not a great idea because player order is tied to the number of buildings you have. So you want to try to stay relatively low. You can even elect to not build at all in the first turn, because that's a better guarantee that you'll be able to get cheaper prices on the resources and also get some better choices when it comes to building in the next in the next couple of rounds. So next up is green. Green is going to go to the northeast area, so it stays out of the way of yellow, doesn't have to compete with anything, and plus it's got some very cheap connections. So they're going to start in Philadelphia here for just the cost of 10, and they're not going to bother to build anymore as well, just to sort of keep their player order good. So we move them up to 1. Now next up is purple. Purple is in an interesting situation because if you remember, they have this fancy number 8 power plant that is actually capable of powering 2 houses instead of just 1. So they're going to try to take advantage of that because the issue is that if you use more electricity than you need, you actually just lose the extra electricity. It doesn't do anything for you, unfortunately. So what they're going to do, they're going to go to Chicago here, because it's actually a nice centralized location. So that's 10 for Chicago, and then they're also going to build in Cincinnati. So it's 10 for Chicago, 7 for the connection, and another 10 to place in Cincinnati itself. So that's 10 plus 17, which is 27. So we'll go ahead and put that in right there. And you can see now purple has quite the short stack, but still they're in a relatively good spot. And last but not least is me, red. So for red, I'm, let me see, what am I going to do? I'm in a bit of a tight spot. I guess I'll probably go ahead and build down here. The problem is I'd like to go up here, but there's a lot of competition brewing up there. So I'll probably just hop into Memphis here and hope that I don't run into too many problems. Since purple doesn't have quite as much money, I shouldn't be too bad. But so now red moves up to 1, and then purple is now up to 2 on that board right there. Okay, so that's it. Now we are in the bureaucracy phase. So this is the get money phase. This is where everybody powers everything up. So essentially here, everybody's going to power up, and everybody except purple has 1. So everybody's going to get 22 except purple, who's going to get 33. So we'll go ahead and count that out. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20, and 20, and 20, 20, and then there's 2, 2, 2, and 2. All right, so everybody except purple gets 22. Oh, whoops. And then, well, here. There's another 11, so purple has 33. Okay, that's the end of that. Now, here at the bottom of the bureaucracy thing, you can see it says in step 1 and 2, place highest power under the stack. So if you remember, at the bottom of our stack is our step 3 card, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be stacking stuff underneath this. So we're going to be able to draw the step 3 card, and we're still going to have power plants under it. So in this case, Mr. Fusion is going bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mr. Fusion. So Mr. Fusion goes on the bottom, and then we redraw after that. All right, so we got a 36, and the 36 happens to go right here next to our 34. Now, we restock all of the materials, so everybody spent all of their various things that they had. So you see, yellow still has 2 coal remaining because they bought 4, but they only spent 2 to power their 1 house, so they keep the other 2. Green spent their oil, so now we restock. We've got 4 players, so we go 5, 3, 2, and 1. So there is 5 coal, 3 oil, 2 garbage, and 1 uranium. Okay, and that's it. That's it for the bureaucracy phase. Now we are ready to start up the next round effectively. And the very beginning of each round is we determine the player order. As I mentioned, the player order first and foremost is based on the number of houses that you've got. In this case, purple has the most houses, so purple is going first. After that, everybody else is tied for the number of houses, so it's based off of the number of their power plant. The highest numbered power plant goes first. So in this case, green has a 9, and then yellow has a 5, and red has a 4. So red's going to be going last, and then yellow is going to be the penultimate, and green is going to be second in this case. And that's it. So now we are ready for the next round to start. We start at the bidding, and we just do everything over again. So that's the essential feel for it. Oops, I forgot to put purple second house. I'm sorry about that, purple. But that's it. That's the essentials of the game. So I'll just go ahead and I'll run through probably just one more round of play so that you guys can see what happens, narrate it a bit, but try to move a little bit quicker. So purple is going first, and they are actually going to pass. They are not going to bid on a power plant. They're okay with their 8. They're going to wait for something that's a little bit more cost effective. Next up is green. Green has their 1 oil for 1 house. They're going to go ahead and bid on the 10. Yellow says 11, 12, pass, 13, pass. So yellow gets it for 13. Excuse me, yellow. Poker chips are the way. Okay. And hippie power is available. And we reorder these. Oh, never mind. Hippie power isn't available anymore because the 12 came up. Womp womp. Okay. So purple passed. Yellow got something, so green goes again. Oh, look, green wants that 12. 12, 13, 14, 15, pass. It's a pretty good deal on that. And 30. Some good garbage. All right, now, green still needs to get a power plant. They were technically second, but they kept getting outbid. So they're actually going to go ahead and take the hippie power. The problem with hippie power is that it's never as good as some of the other ones. It can let you go for a little while. It can help you out a decent amount. You can get some free stuff from it. But you can see having a single house powered by a windmill is basically more expensive from the start than having, say, this really super cheap coal plant. But, you know, that's the way it works. All right, so we're done with auction. Next, buy raw materials in reverse order. So that means red goes first. They're going to take 2 coal and 2 oil for a total of 8. That's it. And yellow is just going to get 2 coal for a cost of 6. And then green is going to get an oil for 3. And purple's got to get coal. No choice, unfortunately. So that's 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Oops, forgot to scoop these down. 42 is the answer. All right, so we're done buying stuff. Now it's time to build, also in reverse player order. So this is advantageous for red here because they get to build before purple does, and potentially get some of the better connections. So we're actually going to try to take both of these here. Can we afford it though? I don't think we can. So that'd be 16 and 17. No. We'll take St. Louis though, just to sort of block off purple there a little bit. So that's at a cost of 17. So that's 17, 22, 3, 4, 5. Bam and bam. All right, so that's red. That's 2. Yellow. Yellow is going to take some cheap ones here. So there's Jacksonville with no connection cost. And then there's Tampa for change of 1. And then green. Green is going to do the same thing. Get New York super cheap. And then Washington, D.C. for 13. So that's 10 and 13 is 23. That's a change for you. And Washington and New York. Bom, bom. Now purple. Purple is in a bit of a pickle here because they didn't buy a power plant, which isn't a bad thing, but at the same time, now people are starting to sort of encroach on their area. So the thing is, they could afford to get maybe 1 more house, and people do have higher numbers. So it's probably prudent of them to do so. So they're going to go ahead and just get 1. They're going to go into, where are they going to go? They'll go ahead and head into Knoxville for 16. So that's right here from Cincinnati. Even though they can't power that house, it's still going to be very helpful just in terms of being able to block others from getting into the yellow region efficiently. So red, I'm in quite a bit of trouble here, just trying to get some stuff done. But either way, we're back to bureaucracy now. So first thing is get money. Everybody lights them up. So this time, everybody is going to be powering up 2 of them. So even though most people have 3, nobody can really afford to do so unless, actually I guess yellow could if they want to. And I could too, but do I want to spend it? So see, the difference between powering up 2 and 3 is 11 monies, 11 electro. So it's actually not a bad thing. So red will go ahead and power up 3. Yellow will power up 3. So they both get 33. Oh, actually, never mind. Red cannot afford to light up 3 because they only have 2. So, fail. But yellow can. So there's 33. And then everybody else gets 22. There's 20. And 22. 2. And 2. 22. And then we restock, which is the 5, 3, 2, and 1. After everybody spends all their stuff. So, if you didn't notice that with green, they lit up 2 homes for the cost of 1 oil because they only have the single plant that uses oil, but then with their windmill power, they were able to have a second home be powered. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 garbage, and 1 uranium. Uranium's starting to come down. Starting to, not very efficiently. Alright, so now we determine player order. Red is still last because red only has 2 homes. Everybody else, we go by the power plant. So now purple has the lowest power plant, and then it's 10 and 13, so green has the highest power plant now. And that's it. So it just keeps going like that. I'm not going to do another round just because it's going to take a little bit longer. Hopefully you got a general idea of how everything works. The mechanics, how you can decide to block people, not to block them. Are you going to build more so that you can go faster? Are you going to just build more so that you can block people off? Or are you going to stay back so that you can maybe try to save some money, be able to get some better power plants during the auctions, all of that kind of stuff. So actually I forgot to bury this. Got to bury the 42 in favor of the 39. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that you enjoyed this video, the gameplay demo aspect for Power Grid. It's a wonderful game, as I said. It's a lot of fun. Once everybody knows what they're doing, it can move very, very quickly. I'm sure that you can see that just based on me playing by myself. Just remember, after somebody reaches 7 houses, that is when step 2 begins. And at step 2, there's a couple of little changes. So in the step 2, you can start building in the 15 spots. So you can have 2 people in a single city, but you still have to pay a connection cost. And then you also take the lowest number power plant and you remove it from the game, and then you replace it with something new as well. But other than that, that's pretty much it. The last thing is for the step 3. The step 3 is interesting because that's when, I'll just read it straight off the instructions. If it's drawn in phase 2, which is auction power plants, treat the card as the highest power plant and place it in the future market. Immediately shuffle the stack of remaining power plants and then place it face down next to the game board. Continue the auction. So remove the lowest power plant and place the step 3 card. Do not draw replacements. Step 3 starts in phase 3, and phase 3 is the buying raw materials, effectively. Let's see, that's pretty much it. And then if it's drawn during phase 4, which is building, because you have to replace the lowest one in step 2, then you remove the card and the smallest number plant from the game and do not draw replacements. You shuffle the draw stack and place it next to the board. Step 3 starts in phase 5, where phase 5 is the bureaucracy, so it's going to change how much stuff is replenished. And then if it's drawn in phase 5, remove the card and the lowest power plant from the game and do not draw a replacement. Shuffle the deck. So basically during step 3, you're only going to have 6 plants total, and the thing is that there is no future market. Everything there is available during the step 3. Whereas during both step 1 and 2, you've got your current market on the top and then the future market at the bottom, and you still rearrange them, but everything is available during step 3. And instead of burying the top one, as in step 1, you bury the lowest one. Well, you don't even bury it, you get rid of it entirely from the game as you do in step 2. So essentially it allows the larger power plants to come out and stay, and it just gets rid of the lower ones that people aren't going to want late in the game. But either way, as I keep saying, this is a wonderful game. It's a ton of fun. There's just about a bajillion expansions that you can get for it, primarily with different locations. So just real quick, what I'll do is I'll scoot all this stuff off so I can just show you the other side very quickly. As I mentioned, the other side of this is Germany, which is very cool. So it just allows for some varied gameplay, essentially. There's really not too much difference with it, though. So just flip it over here. So you can see, here's Germany. Woo! Very exciting. There's München down there. That's Munich, Nuremberg, Hanover. Great place. Fun stuff goes on there. Where's Frankfurt? I know Frankfurt's on here. There it is. There's Frankfurt. Mannheim, Stuttgart. All the good places. All the places that I'm sure most of you have heard of. But remember, this is a classic example of a Euro game, so it's not surprising that you have, Germany as one of the maps. But there are a ton of others. There's a ton of expansions, like the robot expansion that lets you play solo, all sorts of crazy stuff. But either way, with that, thank you so much for watching my little game demo for Power Grid. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you got a feel for it, how it works. More importantly, I hope that you're willing to try it a little bit more now. But for my purposes, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll go into some pros and cons of the game, as well as my general conclusions. Thank you very much, and yeah, I'll see you in a little bit for the pros and cons. So last but not least, I'll go over some pros and cons for Power Grid here, as well as just my general summary and conclusions. First and foremost, there are a lot of pros for this game. First, it is a great example of how a Euro game can be extremely well balanced. This is a game where no matter who I play with, no matter how experienced or inexperienced they are, it feels like nobody is really far behind. And that is something that is extremely rare in a lot of games. There are some games where once you get behind, you just never seem to be able to get back. And one of the biggest reasons for that is in this, you don't have a catch-up mechanic, and you really don't need it. It's not necessary. One of the nice things is the way that the money scales with how many houses you're lighting up, or how many things that you're powering. It makes it a lot better in that context. One of the other things that I really like about this is just a lot of the table talk. I love the auction system. I love how it works. I love the way that it goes. This game goes about doing the auction system. Some places, some games, they have the silent auction system where you say, I'm going to bet this much, and then everybody exposes how much it is. And some games are absolutely terrible in that sense, where even if you didn't win the auction, you still lose the money that you bet, which is awful, I might add. But for this game, really well done auction system, wonderful economy. I love the idea of the scaling economy and the way that the resources scale in terms of the phases, all of that great stuff. It's very good examples of mechanics that have now been used over and over again after Power Grid did them first. The biggest con for me on this is just the time. Now, the problem is you can't really say that it's a con because it's a pretty heavy Euro game. It's something that you would fully expect. You would assume that a game like this would take a decent amount of time, even with relatively few players. But incidentally, that's another positive, is the fact that it can accommodate so many players. But that's really the biggest con, is the time investment. And not only that, but since it is relatively heavy, it's not something that you can really play with people who are very inexperienced. But obviously, though, that's almost a gripe. It's not even a con. It's something it's something you would expect from a game that is not. I mean, it's not only really good because they're good, simple games, but it's a good game that really makes you think and really makes you strategize what you're going to do, how you're going to go about doing it, all of that kind of stuff. It's a great game, a ton of fun. Just remember, use your poker chips. Don't use the money. That's the other big con for me. But again, it's more of a gripe than anything else. But either way, Power Grid, if you haven't done so, go and play it. This is a classic example of a wonderfully designed and wonderfully executed board game. Go out and play it with your friends. Go out, buy it for yourself if you haven't already, because it's a game that you will love. You will love to keep on your shelf. Great fun to have. Thanks very much for watching this review. I hope that you enjoyed it. And as always, let me know if there are any games that you want to see me review, how you like this particular review, all of that kind of stuff. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you next time.
Thanks very much again for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, please give me any and all feedback in the comments below. I love to hear what you guys think. Let me know how I can improve this and all of those good things. In addition, let me know if there are any specific games that you would like to see me review in the future as well. As always, I've got several of my playlists linked up at the top of the page so that you can check out some of my other content, and click on the big giant subscribe button so you can see more of me in the future. In addition, I'm now on Twitter at DannyCGamingSci, so please give me a follow so that you can see when I post new videos and also when I start streaming video games. Thanks very much again, and I'll see you next time.